Hello, I'm in Wildwood, still August 17th. I'm sharing about silence. Even though I'm in a noisy pool area, I want to tell you about the words of Thomas Merton. First, I want to tell you who he was. He's a great man, Trappist monk, spiritual writer, very well known from the 20th century. And I believe it's very possible he was martyred for his influence on peace, world peace, by the CIA when he was in the Indonesia region. And it was a strange cover-up. But anyways, here are some of his words I will share. And I'm going to just add a little, modification to a couple of the words. August 17th, 2026, the words of Thomas Merton. We do not go into the desert to escape people, but rather to find them. We do not leave them in order to have nothing to do with them, but to find out how to do the most good for them. But this is still only a second end. The one end that includes all others is the love of God. How can people act and speak as if solitude was a matter of no importance at all in their internal life? Only those How can people act and speak as if solitude was a matter of no importance in the interior life? Only those who have never experienced real solitude can glibly declare that it makes no difference. And that solitude of the heart is what really matters. One solitude must lead to others. However, the truth is, solitude is not something outside of yourself. It is not an absence of men or sound around. It is an abyss opening up in the center of your soul. And this abyss of interior solitude is a hunger that will never be satisfied with any created thing. The only way to find solitude is fight hunger and thirst and sorrow and poverty and desire. And the one thing who has found solitude is empty, as if he had been emptied by death. He has advanced beyond all horizons. There are no directions left in which he can travel. There is a country where the center is everywhere, and the circumference is nowhere. You did not find it by traveling, but by standing still. Yea, it is in this loneliness that the deepest activities begin. Traveling much faster than the speed of light, and yet not moving at all. It is here that you have discovered acts without motion, labor that is profound repose, a fulfillment that extends unto infinity. Although it is true that the solitude is everywhere, there is a mechanism for finding it that has some reference to space and geography. It is a physical isolation from towns and cities of people. There should be at least one room in some corner where no one will find you and disturb you or even notice you. You should be able to untether yourself from the world and set yourself free, losing all the fine strings and strands of tension that bind you by sight and by sound and by thought to the presence of other people. But thou, when thou shalt pray, enter into thy chamber, and having shut the door, pray to the Father in secret. Once you have found such a place, be content with it, and do not be disturbed if good reason takes you out of it. Love it and return to it as soon as you can, and do not be too quick to change it for another. A place where you can breathe naturally, quietly, and not have to take your breath in continuous gasps. A place where your mind can be idle and forget its concerns. Descend into silence and worship the sacred and the secret. There can be no contemplation where there is no secret. We have said that silence that is important to contemplation and interior is a spiritual thing. We have admitted that it is possible to live in a deep and peaceful interior solitude, even in the midst of the world with all its confusion. But this truth is sometimes abused by religion. There are people dedicated to God whose lives are consumed with restlessness and have no real desire to be alone. They admit that exterior solitude is good in theory, but they insist that it is far better to preserve an interior solitude while living in the midst of others. In practice, their lives are devoured activities and strangled with attachments. Ultimately, solitude is impossible for them. They fear it, and they do everything they can do to escape it. What is worse, they try to drive everyone else into their activities as senseless and as devouring as their own. They are great promoters of useless work. They love to organize meetings and banquets and lectures and conferences. They print letters. They write circulars. They talk for hours on the telephone that they might gather 100 people together and fill the air with smoke and make a great deal of noise and roar at one another, clap their hands, then stagger home, at last patting each other on the back with their assurance that they have done great things to increase the kingdom of God. You'll never find interior solitude unless you make some conscious effort to deliver yourself from the desires and cares and attachments of an existence in time and in the world. Do everything you can to avoid the noise and the business of people. Keep as far away as you can from where they gather to cheat and insult one another, to exploit one another, to laugh at one another, and to mock one another with their false gestures of friendship. Be glad if you can stay far away from the reach of their radio's Wi-Fi G5. Do not bother with their unearthly songs. Do not read their advertisements. The contemplative life certainly does not demand a self-righteous contempt for their habits and diversions of ordinary people. But nevertheless, no one who seeks liberation in light and solitude, no one who seeks spiritual freedom can afford to yield passively to all the appeals of a society of salesmen, advertisers, and consumers. Keep your eyes clean and your ears quiet and your mind serene. Breathe God's air. Work if you can under the sky. But if you have to live in a city and work among the machines with all their artificial intelligence, and ride in the subways, and eat in their restaurants with propaganda on screens, with toxic foods that destroy your life, and the sentiments of those around who poison your heart with boredom and drugs, do not be impatient, but accept it as the love of God and a seed of solitude planted deep in your heart. You are alone. You are different. You are different. Now you can see it. You are not of this world, and you know it. If you are appalled of those things, good. That means you will keep your appetite for the healing and silence of recollection. But meanwhile, keep your sense of compassion for the people who have forgotten the very concept of solitude. Perfect renunciation establishes, 1, in a state of spiritual solitude, peace, tranquility, clarity, gentleness, and joy, in which one is fully disposed for meditation and contemplative prayer. There is no true solitude except interior solitude, and interior solitude is not possible for anyone who does not accept their right place in relation to others. There is not a true peace possible for one who still imagines that some accident of talent or grace or virtue segregates them from other people and places them above them. Solitude is not separation, but solitude is oneness.